This is Justin Croxton. I'm managing partner at Q-Commerce, and I want to have a conversation with you guys about online marketing, digital media marketing, specifically how small businesses and even startups or any business that's out there, quite frankly, can acquire more customers. So without further ado, let's just go ahead and get started. Just to kind of give you guys a sense of what we're going to talk about today. First, we're going to discuss, what it really means and what it looks like succeeding in digital media. I'm going to walk you through the digital marketing funnel. We're going to talk a little bit about all the different online distribution channels, including social media, pay-per-click advertising, search engine optimization, even a little bit of banner placement. And we're not going to just talk about them in generalities. We're actually going to go into some of the numbers because there is some science behind this, and you can actually measure a lot of these different things. Talk a little bit more about how we can actually attract those eyeballs and what that looks like. The flycatcher, the things that really draws people to your website and to your business. We'll go a little bit into some tips and things that you guys can implement yourselves without actually having to hire a search engine optimization or search engine marketing firm. And then finally, we'll talk about what it really looks like growing your business. Just a quick recap. So digital marketing success. Particularly here at Q-Commerce, we really try to pride ourselves on having conversations at every level of the digital marketing process, from content creation to what it looks like to actually generate leads for your business. When you think about why people come to a business, is not just to buy a product. In many cases, it's to buy a service, and in many cases, it's to do both. And if you don't have a good reason for having your website, your product offering become more of an authority in that particular space or in that piece of the conversation, then you're not maximizing the opportunities for your company. So that's one of the biggest keys, in my opinion. And also, you have website optimization. Something as small as placing an email address or a phone number on the home page of your phone is absolutely critical. Lead capture infrastructure, and I drew this arrow to these two guys that are on a computer but have headsets on, and that's what your lead capture infrastructure is. It's how you are capturing those leads and what you're doing with them. So it's how you're having conversations with those individuals when they call you or when they come to your website. Do you have some sort of flycatcher that actually grabs the information that that just essentially allows them to write down information on your website. We also talk about conversion, so how we maximize those different conversion funnels. Something as small as taking a pay-per-click campaign and increasing it from 1% click-through rate to 1.5% click-through rate is essentially a 50% increase in business. And that's astounding, but it's very, very possible, and it can all be measured. And then finally, brand loyalty. How do you manage your brand on the internet, and how do you get more people to love, appreciate, and want to consume your brand? The online marketing funnel. So I love this slide because when you look at the funnel, at the very top, it says content strategy. And over time, I'd say probably back in the early 2000s, and even, in the last 3 or 4 years, Google allowed a lot of manipulation of its algorithm, where you could create a lot of these different blog networks. You could do a number of things to manipulate the search engines, and that's just kind of how it is. You have a marketplace where you set the rules, and people just try to adapt accordingly so that they can earn a living and do well. And I get that, nothing wrong with that, right? But over time, they've realized that if they're going to stay true to their mission, they need to do something about it. And they are at a point where promoting content is the biggest thing that matters at this juncture. If you don't have a strong content strategy, you are doomed, unless you're Polo. But even Polo is an example, not Polo, but Ralph Lauren. If you were to go into Google and type in the words polo shirts, Ralph Lauren's going to come up on top. And I hear a lot of folks say, oh man, these guys over at Ralph Lauren are at the very top. Well, they should be at the very top, right? They're Ralph Lauren. They make more polos, and people buy more polos from them than any other company. So you should expect that. But content is not just about having a good product. It's about how you get your message out, how you get your marketing out, your traditional marketing methods. So they have the right to be at the top stage. And with a content strategy, that's where you're able to get or at least communicate your message through all these different funnels, from having your own blog to social media, organic search, pay-per-click advertising, even having your own affiliates. All this is what drives traffic to your websites, which then allows you to focus more on conversions and optimizing your websites, which then finally translates into customers. So for some of those who knows what paid search is, please forgive me, but I did want to kind of show what this looks like. And paid search specifically, these particular advertisements, the three advertisements that you see on the top of this slide, of this search bar, you have Washington Tours, you have these three folks that are advertising. I'm not certain what they're paying at this juncture, but they are advertising, and you typically see those ads at the very top. You also see ads on the far right-hand side. And not to say that it's best to be at the very top, because sometimes it's not. I have a client that I do work with right now, and we're constantly having conversations of why he's not on top, and he's a bankruptcy lawyer. And if you can imagine, lawyers, they do pretty well for themselves, but a lot of these lawyers are catching on, and they're beginning to pay $20, $30, $40, $50 per click. And if your budget for a day is $40 in one day, then paying $40 for a click does not really help. You want to be in the position that most maximizes your ability to get as many qualified leads and clicks to your website. So that's really what that's all about. And once again, those clicks, they truly range anywhere from 25 cents to $100 per click. And what essentially happens is you go into Google, you type in the keywords, let's say for example bankruptcy lawyer, and those keywords is what generates those ads. And a lot of people are always wondering, how does Google come up with the cost per click? And it boils down to this real-time auction that constantly takes place, where you have thousands and thousands of advertisers that are essentially bidding on these keywords. And I love this concept, because what it essentially says is it's able to figure out the relative value of those particular keywords. It's actually like a full-blown marketplace that determines how valuable this keyword or this particular keyword phrase is. So that's why you usually see a lot of those long tail keywords are not as, how would you say, not as valuable, because number one, a lot of people haven't really thought of that sort of a long tail keyword, like I need a bankruptcy lawyer in New York, which would probably be less valuable, but still probably just as effective as bankruptcy lawyer New York. And what's great about all those numbers, and then finally figuring out this thing that's probably drives everything, which is customer value. When you talk about customer value is the relative value that you place on each customer that you collect. So some customer values may be 500, some may be 200, some may be all the way up to $10,000, $5,000. And once you've figured out that number, you can ultimately determine the potential profit margins that you want to make for your business. You can figure out a whole host of things that will allow you to make good decisions for your pay-per-click advertising campaign. So the pay-per-click marketing funnel, once again, is very simple, very straightforward. Start with, let's say for example, you get 5,000 clicks. Typical click-through rate is about 1%. That then drives down to 50 clicks. And then finally, based on those 50 clicks, let's say you have 10% of people actually give you a call. Let's say you're a plumber. 50 people, 50 clicks, 50 visitors to your website. You have 5 calls. And then finally, let's say you're just not having a good day and you're only able to close 20% of those calls. And by the way, if you're only able to close 20% of those calls, you need to work on that. You should be closer to 50%, 60%, 70% close rate. And that's really what it boils down to. So 50 searches, 50 clicks, 1 customer. And I thought it was appropriate to kind of share with you guys an example, something that we do at QCommerce that is really back of the napkin, but really does allow us to sit down with clients in a very sensible way and figure out what the target cost per click should be. So, I was doing kind of a test campaign and having conversations with a property management company that does a lot of business in the Atlanta area, and we established that their average, what would you say, average customer value was closer to $2,500, but we decided to just pull it down to $1,000 just to kind of get a real sense of, from a cash flow perspective, because the $2,500 would be recouped over, I say, about a year to year and a half. We wanted to, establish an average customer value over 3 to 6 months. So $1,000 is what we established, right? You have a monthly service charge, which is what we and other organizations typically charge to manage pay-per-click advertising campaigns. Assuming a phone call rate, 10% of people will actually call when they click on your website. Phone close rate is when individuals are able to actually close people on the phone. And the rest of the numbers are important, but what I really wanted to draw your attention to was this percent margin, which is 25%. That's really assuming a 75% profit margin, which is what they told us they wanted to make if they were to invest this money into pay-per-click advertising. So based on all that information, we were establishing some key metrics for, at the end of the day. We were able to figure out the break-even cost per click, which is $20, and I can assure you that our clients will not be paying $20 per click. So we were then able to say, okay, $20, 75% profit margin, so the target cost per click ends up being $5 per click, which is a great number to start off with, or at least to go from. And so then that finally translates into $6,000 based on, let's say, 300 clicks per month, which is very doable. 300 clicks per month, $6,000 in revenue based on $1,500 or $1,800 that you would have invested. A 70% effective profit margin. That's really good, people, and I can't stress this enough. I mean, whether you want to actually make the investment in pay-per-click advertising for your business, or if you just simply want to run a test campaign just to kind of get a sense of whether you have the funds to make this sort of investment over a relative period of time, make the investment. I tell people all the time, it's totally worth it. Not everybody, but a number of people are catching on. You do not want to be behind the curve if you have this interest in growing your business, particularly from an online marketing perspective or a digital marketing perspective. So the next area, search engine optimization. The biggest anomaly in Google and any search engine marketing in the search engine marketing world, but at the same time the most powerful, and I can't stress that enough, because when you look at this slide, you see Washington tours. I used this before, but except it's in the organic search engine results, and you see that this company was at trolleytours.com. They're located at the very top of the search engines. They are pulling in a lot of business because they are an authority in the Washington, D.C. area for tours, as a touring company. And to put it in simple terms, Google's number one job is to organize the world's information, make it useful, make it accessible. That's their mission. That's all they care about. And if they're not doing a good job of that, more people are going to go over to Yahoo. They're going to go over to Bing, which I guess is okay. That's fine. But Google is a huge company, and their algorithm is actually really darn good. This is the reason why they are number one. They are making so much money. But I want to draw your attention to the third bullet point, position number one. If a keyword Washington Tours is collecting about, let's say, 10,000 searches per, say about 10,000 searches per month, and you're in position number one, you're getting 4,500 clicks to your website. you are doing very, very well as a business. And that's what makes this business so exciting, so dynamic, is that you can have a great content strategy, you can have some decent traditional marketing methods, and over time, through mentions plus press releases and so forth, you can effectively get to number one. But you know what? Let's say you're not able to get to number one. Even if you're just on the first page of Google, you're getting some traffic. But even if you're in position number 3, 10%, you can't tell me that if any of you guys wanted to get an additional 1,000 searches or 1,000 clicks to your website, that's not worth the investment. These are highly targeted, highly qualified leads, individuals that say, you know what, Washington Tours, if I type in Washington Tours, maybe I'm doing a little bit of research, but more than likely than not, I'm actually looking for a business. So that's something to consider. Now, yes, it is difficult. It is not easy to rank number one in Google. It does take time. And no, you cannot automatically rank on the first page of Google. For paid search, yes, you can be if you pay for each click, but not for search engine optimization. So anybody that tells you that you can get to number one on the first day is being less than truthful. I'll just say that. You see these two little guys right here, Panda and Penguin. I have to be honest. I did some quite a bit of search engine optimization in the past. I had some of my own websites that I was working on just to do some testing, and I tell you, man, Google, they just pulled the rug out under the entire industry. And at first I was really upset. I was like, oh, what are these guys doing? What? You're messing up my business. But you know what? I can't be upset with them, because the whole idea of Google and their mission is to organize the content and make certain that the content is incredibly relevant to what folks are searching for. And if you have all these terrible, crappy websites that's ranking number one in Google and is getting all this search traffic, but is not adding value, why would anybody want those websites to be at the very top of Google? I certainly wouldn't. I would assume you wouldn't either. And that's what the Panda algorithm update and the Penguin update is. The Panda, that little guy on the left-hand side, was meant to battle crappy content, which includes duplicate content, duplicate title tags, things of that nature. Thin content that's not fresh on websites. That's what that guy was all about. And the Penguin on the right-hand side was to battle spammy links that were essentially just blasted away through a lot of these services, which I will admit a number of folks have used and continue to use to this day. Rightfully so, because Google created this marketplace that rewarded people for these things, but they're not rewarding those same individuals anymore. So these two guys really threw the entire industry in a tailspin, and it's forced a lot of people to not just rethink their strategy, but to rethink how they do business. And I can't stress this enough. This is a good thing, a really good thing for the digital marketing world. For just marketing in general. Like, folks don't go to business school, folks don't go to school so that they can manipulate marketplaces. I mean, well, let me take that back. I think people actually do to an extent, but I certainly did not. I did not go to school, and I certainly didn't go to business school so I can just blast out a whole bunch of spammy links and write crappy content and not think about what I'm doing to contribute to society or add value. I don't deserve to be in the number one place if people don't find my website or the content that I'm promoting or the products or services that I'm promoting to be valuable to them. Bottom line. So this is a good thing, people. I really want to stress that. How does Google now determine who gets on number one or all these different positions? It's pretty much fluid. Those results are always going to be changing. But for the most part, it's essentially 20% based on what you do to your website. So the title tags, the titles that you have on your website, the meta tags, unique content, the fresh content, how fresh is it, how new is the content, the keyword uses, how often you're using certain keywords throughout your website. And Google does an incredibly good job of figuring out what your website is effectively all about based on all of that information. So it's 20%, and maybe a little bit more, a little bit less. You know, these numbers aren't perfect, but I want you to look at the right-hand side. 80% off page. 80% has to do with link building. Link building is essentially somebody going to your website, and they also have a website, or they have a social networking account, whatever that may be, and they say, you know what, this is a good website. I'm going to place a link from your website to my website. That's effectively called a backlink. And a backlink is, you know, think of it like a vote, right? That's how people are able to determine what websites are good and what websites are not really that authoritative. So on here on the left-hand side, you see authority links, how many times your brand has been mentioned, directory links, social signals. By the way, social signals are becoming so important because it's very difficult to manipulate these social networking accounts. So be on the lookout. Social signals are incredibly important for link building purposes and getting people to link back to your website, and also press releases and a few other services and ways to get your message across. These are all the things that impact rankings within Google. And so, you know, it's important before you do anything, before you do any sort of link building strategies or search engine optimization, you got to do some research. You got to research in order to figure out what keywords we want to target. And the way you figure that out is a number of things. These are just a small list, but one of the biggest things that I typically use is pay-per-click data. Before I do any sort of search engine optimization, I run a pay-per-click test campaign. Because what you'll find out is, for example, you'll have keywords that cost me like 50 cents, but still generate traffic to my website. Even though it generates traffic to the website, a keyword that's at 50 cents per click is not that valuable, because if it was valuable, it would be closer to $1, $2, $5, $10, not 50 cents, not 25 cents. You don't want to just simply send traffic to your website that's not going to be highly targeted, highly converting traffic. And so that's where that whole idea is, and that's where you make those smart investments. You want to get a sense of the search volume. How many people are actually searching on this keyword? What's the length of the keyword phrase? What's the competition? You know, what is your company actually offering? You know, what products and services can really make a difference, and what keywords can actually speak to your company and what your company is offering at that juncture. And if you factor all that in, you've done a pretty effective job in figuring out the keywords that you're going to target and the keywords that you're going to perform search engine optimization on. So this next thing, local search. I can't tell you that, you know, Google is becoming incredibly sophisticated, and this is definitely a smart play on their part. There are so many local businesses out there that, you know, just simply being at the top of Google for, you know, for certain keywords, certain businesses that don't look like this, like where you see the A, the B, the C, and the D, just didn't make sense for Google. They said, you know what, we need to have some type of geo-targeting, some type of way to capture businesses that are local, where individual, because that's typically what it is. If I'm looking for a plumber, I'm not looking for a plumber that's located in Bangladesh or California. If I'm located in New York, I want plumbers that are located in New York. So Google created this thing called local search, where you can essentially get yourself established in Google Maps. And it was a very smart play, and I can't tell you, if you are not operating, if you are not dancing in this space, doing whatever you can to increase your local search rankings, you are losing out on probably one of the biggest opportunities, which is far easier, in my opinion, than search engine optimization. So that circle and that ABC, that all that stuff right there, that's all local search. And let's go to this one little guy right here, the OCA. You know, I typed in Insurance Atlanta, You go down, you see oci.ga.gov. By the way, .gov sites get a ton of traffic, and they are ridiculously authoritative. Why? Because, well, it's the government. And these guys have only gotten one Google review, but yet they are at the very top of Google. If I'm searching for insurance in Atlanta, I'm probably not searching for, I probably don't want to go to the Office of Insurance and Safety Fire. But then go to the next one, you have Travelers. Yes, that's probably a company that I would consider reaching out to for insurance. Connecture Inc. Maybe. BB&T, not so sure. If they do insurance, that's a good bet. But those are all the things that you have to think about from that perspective. And so these are all the players. There's more players, but these are the main ones that you want to consider. You have Google Places, you have TripAdvisor, you have Yelp, City Search, Angie's List. These are all of the locations and all the different networks. And you know, the funny thing actually is TripAdvisor, Yelp, City Search, and Angie's List impacts your placement in Google Places. So you have to determine which ones you want to play in. You know, for example, you know, you may have a DC touring company. It makes sense for them to be located in TripAdvisor because they offer a lot of, well, they do trips, and you can do some great reviews on there. Also for Yelp, City Search, Google Places. Maybe not so much for Angie's List. Angie's List is a little bit more local. You have plumbers, you have doctors, you know, those types of organizations. And the way that, bottom line, the way you increase your rankings in Google Places, any of these, distribution channels, if you will, is reviews. You have to get reviews. You have to get human reviews, and they have to be real. And the whole idea is, it's just like link building. If you think about it, it's like, here, I'm coming to your website, and I am voting on this website. I am voting, and I'm also giving you my opinion. And those opinions are valuable. And Google and all these other folks want to encourage reviews, because you think about a great example such as Amazon.com. They are the authority in e-commerce. You type in any type of product that's even electronic for that matter, Amazon's going to show up on top. Part of the reason is because they collect so many reviews. And so the same logic is true with Google Places. You do reviews, your website should be higher, because people are able to get some great intelligence, some great data on whether this is a company that I want to do business with. Now, there are some other ways. You have citations, mentions in local and regional publications in those particular areas, directories within those regions. The other important piece, that you want to consider is how you manage your reputation. You want to know that, I have a good reputation when people are going to this website. If I go to Google Places and I see 3 reviews that say I gave crappy service, gosh darn, I want to figure out why. I'm not going to just let that information linger. I want to have conversations with those individuals that posted that information. I want to get them back to the restaurant. I want to fix things. And that's really the beauty, and that's what a lot of companies do these days. They do some great reputation management, and I can't stress to you how important that is from the perspective of growing your business. Social media marketing. Ladies and gentlemen, you're a small business, a big business, a startup, crap. If you just simply are an individual and you just want to get your message across, whatever it is, you have to play in this space. Look at these numbers. Pinterest, another social network and company, 15 million users. LinkedIn, 40 million. Google Plus hasn't even been around that long. 150 million, because they've been able to leverage, the Google network itself. Twitter, what a thought, 200 million. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Google actually tried to buy Twitter for a ridiculous amount, and Twitter said, absolutely not. We know how valuable our company is, so we're going to give you the hand. And rightfully so, they are now at 200 million eyeballs. And Facebook, I just heard that Facebook is more than likely to surpass 1 billion users. Here in the United States, we only have 350 million people that live here. 850 million is a ridiculous number of people. That's the reason why their value was so high. But Facebook is actually having some issues with their marketing, how they actually market. And you can say that's true for all these social networks. However, it's not about the marketing itself. You know, the marketing, a lot of people think about marketing, it's, okay, here's my message, I'm going to blast it out. Please come to my website. Please come to my website. Yeah, that might be slightly part of it, but it's more so about the two-way conversation that you're having with your existing customers and new customers, how you're communicating. Back in the day, all you could do is communicate one way, is through customers communicating with you, customers reaching out to you, letting you know, hey, I want your product. Oh, okay, all I can do is then send you a survey and ask you how it was, and that's it. You know, social networking now, it's a free marketing channel. It allows you to, you know, post content and have it go viral to all these different communities. It's so easy to communicate and be in touch with people. You can be in touch with your customers 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's free. Do not be lazy. Please do not be lazy. It is important that you at least dance within Google+, Twitter, and Facebook, and LinkedIn. And if you're concerned about you know, having to manage all these different accounts, there are great pieces of software that allows you to send one message out and it goes to all of your accounts. So, you know, don't worry. I mean, one of the good things one of the organizations that I typically use is Hootsuite, Hoot Suite, SUITE. And it's a shout out for those guys. They do a pretty good job. I don't like the fact that they actually charge for you know, for their university to learn their software. I don't actually appreciate that, but I gotta admit the software is decent and it works and is not expensive. It's like $10 a month, you know, for the basic package. It's worth it, guys. If you're a business, you know, just do it. I can assure you that it's going to make a huge difference as far as your brand going viral and your business going viral. So this brings me to pretty much close to the end of the slides, and excuse me, and this is this one piece that I like to call content that people take for granted. And this is why Google created, you know, the Panda update, the Penguin update algorithm, is because content was just crappy. You had these thin websites that were ranking #1 for like insurance companies, and this website is an insurance company. This is just a referral or something that allows them to get, you know, cost per action in earnings to their website. So now you have to create great content, and great content just doesn't only apply to an article that you write or a news story. It's about your product. It's about your service. It could be a discussion forum. It can be a community that you've built. It can be a great news story, contest that you do, promotion, sales promotions, announcements, whatever it is. You know, you want to be in a place where you are owning the conversation of that contextually targeted keyword. And this is how you do it. This is how you integrate a great marketing strategy that allows you to pull in those eyeballs, pull in those customers. And if you're not doing it, if you don't have a way for people to engage with your brand or engage with your website, then why should I come to your website? It's really that simple. You can't just do a press release and say, "Hey, I'm selling night vision goggles. Come to me." Okay, cool. So what am I supposed to do? That's not going to cut the mustard. And you know what I typically tell people is, if you want to get into the game, just write an article at least. You know, write an article and make it a touching article. Make it an article that's on talking to a client the other day, I was telling him, you know, we need to, you know, start doing some, you know, change things up a little bit. Why don't you write an article that talks about how you were able to save a woman from bankruptcy? And, you know, the article did actually pretty darn good. It got picked up in a number of press releases, and we weren't really we were expecting it, but we weren't expecting to get that much go viral that well, and it did. And, you know, a lot of these journalists and a lot of folks out there, they want a good story, a good touching story. And there's so many creative ways that you can pull your brand into how you're making a difference in the world, how you're helping people out, as well as educating people about your product, what it's offering. So content, content, content. And by the way, if you're going to post good content, please proofread it. It's all about professionalism here, folks. Proofread your content, anything that you post or anything that you do. That's your brand, that's your name. It's got to be in top shape, all right? So some things that you guys can do to get started. One of the things that you can start doing is obviously you have a pretty good sense of your business, the small business, your small business offering, product, service, whatever that is. Or even if you just have your own blog and you just want to own a particular conversation. First thing you do, research keywords. And you can go to Google, type in the keywords. I was going to put the link on here, but it just didn't make sense. So go to Google, type in the keywords, keyword tool. And Google has some really good tools that allows you to do a lot of this research. It will tell you the search volume for those keywords, how competitive they are, all that information, and also allows you to do research on the AdWords side, the pay-per-click side of those particular keywords as well. It takes a little bit more work, but the tools are there and they're free. Use them. That's the very first thing that I would do if I were in your shoes. If you're truly serious about your business, and I know all of you are, and not to say that you're not, but if you're really thinking about how I can grow my business and dominate my market, it's very simple. Run a Google AdWords test. A Google AdWords test essentially allows you to test a particular concept, business idea, and invest the money. I usually do about $100 to $500 for a budget, and I did this recently with the property management company that I told you guys about, that we were looked at the numbers for, and I'd say I spent about $125. Very small budget. I mean, those guys ended up getting close to 62 clicks to their website, 5 phone calls, and I think actually they got a few more phone calls, and they actually picked up one client through the flycatcher service that they have. And I'll be honest, if they see this, if my client sees this presentation, I'm sorry guys, I've told you before, but the website is not as good as it could be. It needs improving, vast improving, and they were still able to pick up a client. And guys, it's right in front of you. The opportunity is there. You invested $125, and they, based on average customer value, they earned themselves $1,000. That's like a 70-80% profit. Probably over 80% profit margin. It's not rocket science, guys. For a number of people, this may not be worth it, but if you have the funds, maybe you don't invest every single day. Maybe you say, you know what, over this time I want to invest in a nice AdWords campaign, and I'm going to do it over 5 days. I'm going to nurture those clients that I pick up, and then I'm going to do it again in another 2 weeks. It doesn't have to be continuous, but I can assure you I think the investment is worth it. I think you should really consider it. Establish your presence in a lot of these different review websites. Again, they're free. They don't cost you a dime unless you want to pay for it, which some allow you to do it. But the free ones and the biggest ones are Yelp, are Angie's List, are Google Places. You absolutely must play in Yelp and Google Places. If you're not, you're doing yourself a huge disservice. Do it. Okay, guys? Clean up your website. I've talked about this before. It's about maximizing each stage in the funnel, right? So, when people search for a particular keyword and you're doing pay-per-click advertising, and part of my job, as a search engine marketer, and the work that I do is maximizing each stage of that funnel. So I need to improve those ads, make certain that those ads are getting more and more clicks. I need to ensure that your website is pulling in a great audience, and we're creating great content, and that content is posted on your website, and people find your website interesting, engaging. something as simple as, again, putting a phone number on the home page makes a huge difference. Huge difference than it just simply being on the second page or the third page or on just your contact page. No, sprinkle that number, sprinkle your contact information throughout your website. All right, make it easy for people to contact you. That's what it boils down to. But again, it's also about content and how you engage your customers. Next piece, create social accounts and use them. Don't just create them for the sake of it. Use those social accounts. So we talked about Twitter, we talked about Google Plus, and we also talked about Facebook. Even LinkedIn, I would say, is important. Just establish the accounts and post. I mean, you don't even have to. It doesn't even have to be 500, 700 word articles that you have to post to those social accounts. You can just find an interesting piece of information that's newsworthy, that is relevant to your business or your product offering. You can post it and squeeze the link and shorten the link and send that out. And it's not hard, people. This is free marketing, free engagement. It's how you get your customers engaged in what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. And then last piece, start creating great content, guys. Do a video. Write a great touching article. Talk about great work that you've done in the community, great work that you've done in a nonprofit space. Talk about how this piece of information will benefit all those individuals that are looking for a bankruptcy lawyer or looking how to get out of bankruptcy. And that's why it's so critical to research certain keywords, so you can sprinkle those keywords and sprinkle those phrases throughout the content that you're creating. And if you focus on creating great content, I assure you guys, people will come. Here at Q-Commerce, we can focus on the tactics and, how we can make the content go viral and get touched in many ways. But it starts with great content. If you don't have something that's appealing to folks, why would they come? Why should they click? Just because you have a product or service? So what? The guy down the street has the same product or service. What makes you different? What makes them different? Start creating great content, and ultimately you will own the conversation. I assure you, you just keep at it, you keep with it, you make the proper investments. And, bottom line, guys, you just have to have a great strategy that tackles each stage of this process. You need to be up to par on the best practices, the search engine optimization best practices. I told you about Panda and Penguin. It's no accident, and it's incredibly important that you understand what the new trends are. And a lot of search engine marketing organizations understand that. It's also great about Google is because you can find a lot of this information as well. It may take more time, but you have that opportunity. Exploit web development opportunities, how you're optimizing your website. You have to do it. It's critical. Measure your performance. This is saying that if you don't measure anything, you can't manage anything. And it's a great quote. I mean, just to repeat, if you don't measure anything, you can't manage anything. So you can't measure your performance. Yeah, you may be doing well. I know that I invested 1,000, but I got 6,000 back. But how would you know that if you weren't really measuring? How would you know which keywords are actually generating that revenue? And at Q-Commerce, as part of what we do, is we break down the keywords that actually not only generated traffic to your website, but also generated phone calls and actually potential purchases. We're able to track all that, and you need to be able to track that information so that you can finally reduce your acquisition costs, which is what this game is about. It's about acquiring customers, driving qualified leads to your business, and reducing those costs. And that's the biggest thing, and also obviously maximizing your inbound infrastructure, which before we talked about, how you capture information on your website, how you close people on the phone. So, just a quick example. I have another client that just has a voicemail, and I keep telling them you can't just have a voicemail that that you send people to. You have to, more people are going to engage with your brand if they're calling, and you have a much better chance of closing them if there's a body on the other end of that phone. It's very simple, but it's so critical, and we want to maximize each stage of the marketing funnel. And there are sensible ways to analyze that and determine what makes the most sense. So these are the things that you guys have to do, and I think this is the way of the future from a marketing perspective, and for businesses that really want to exploit and grow their brand. You have to dance in the world of digital media marketing. You absolutely have to. If you don't, just a clear example, you just look at these huge companies such as Amazon and Google that are creating their own phone. The reason why they're creating their own cell phones is because those are additional distribution channels for them to deliver their products and their services. And if that's not a clear strategy for the two biggest companies, technology companies on the planet, then you guys clearly, at this point, I hope, understand how critical and how opportunistic this world of digital marketing truly is. And I hope this presentation and this conversation, or at least this presentation, has been useful and effective, and at least kind of get you guys thinking about how you can grow your brand and grow your business. So I really just want to thank all of you for listening. I really appreciate you taking the time out to listen to this. If you have any questions for us, please feel free to follow us in Q_commerce, or shoot me an email at justin.croxton@q-commerce.com. And also feel free to visit our website at QUE, that's not CUE, -commerce.com. Thank you once again, and I wish you the very best with your business and growing it and doing well and making a difference. Thank you.